My name is Katie MacIntyre, and I'm your host for the podcast, The Loving Cup, Elevate Your Gratitude. Today's Friday, November 2nd, 2018, and we're live from the Seneca Falls-based FingerLakes1.com studios. So welcome. So let's jump in and meet our guests today. We have two gentlemen from the Martin Group in Rochester, and I'd like them to introduce the other, but we'll start with Dion and Duane. Welcome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So before we start talking about gratitude, would you introduce us to each other? So Duane, would you introduce us to Dion?
I will. Probably about 7 years ago, I was working at an advertising agency in Rochester, and we needed to hire a new head of the creative department. So a guy came in, presented his work, absolutely incredible. The owner, after he left, the owner of the agency asked me, Duane, what do you think? And I said, hire him immediately. That was not Dion. She said, well, we have this superstar from Buffalo that's supposed to be coming in, so we're going to talk to him. Dion came in, interviewed, left, and then the owner said, Duane, what do you think? And I said, hire the first guy. And it is one of the
gratitude that I feel towards him.
It is one of the things that I'm grateful for, that they didn't listen to me. You'll never meet two people that are less alike, but we immediately hit it off. He is just a absolutely solid human being, and that's probably one of the ways that we're not alike. So we immediately started working together, hit it off very well, and the rest is history, I guess.
Beautiful. And would you introduce us?
I don't have any funny, rude stories to say. I think when I started at the other agency, Duane and I really worked well together. And I think that many places that you work, they don't like conflict. But I think working with Duane, we found out really quickly that we would find ourselves arguing about ideas. And I think that conflict naturally just made our work product better. So I can say the work that I've worked on with Duane is probably some of the best work I've ever worked on. So I liked that. I like the idea that we embrace what people consider something that's negative, and we made it work on behalf of our own portfolios, but also on behalf of our clients.
Awesome.
And to set the record straight, Duane is a writer, and I am an art director. Duane often says that together, what is your line?
If you add my brain and Dion's brain together, they almost make one full brain.
Almost one brain.
Okay. And it's a beautiful full brain. Lovely.
Almost.
So let's talk about gratitude. That's why
Sure.
you're here, right? So can you share with me, and either of you can go first, something that you're most grateful for from the past year?
I'll start off. I have an 18-year-old son and a 20-year-old daughter. And I think when you're raising the kids, you just hope that they turn out well. Faith is really important to me in my life, and my relationship with Jesus is something that guides my every step. At least I try to make it that way. So this year, my son has just been accepted to college. My daughter is in college, and I just look at them now and think that they're solid human beings, and they're adults. And both of them, their faith is strong in their own life. And I know that my days with them are very limited in that capacity, so I'm kind of overjoyed with pride in my kids.
Beautiful. Sometimes we cry on the podcast, so I'll try not
Probably
to.
Probably not going to happen.
Not for you?
No.
Well, would you share something from the past year that you're most grateful for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like the old man, but
you are.
I am, but I'm really in the last year kind of grateful for my health, because actually in the last 2 years I've gone through back-to-back rotator cuff surgeries, and I think it's just one of those universal things about gratitude. Maybe it's just with me, but I think it's kind of with a lot of people, is that you don't really appreciate something until you've lost it. And I think on the flip side, that real gratitude is often about the very small things. So with me, I mean, I am very grateful that all of a sudden I can use both hands, because I went from not being able to use my right one to not being able to use my left one for, almost consecutively 2 years. And now just to get a good night's sleep and not be in pain, it's really is one of those things that I think the last year has kind of really made me appreciate. So
beautiful. So you're a writer. So how was your work during one hand and not?
Luckily, it was just I could, you had the little, anybody that's had rotator cuff surgery, you have the telltale pillow. I'll be walking through Wegmans and people see, oh, rotator cuff surgery, because you have the sling, but then the pillow that goes with it.
Okay.
And it was just the right height for a keyboard, so it really didn't.
No loss in productivity.
No loss in productivity.
That's good. That's good. So what about your whole life? Is there something that comes to the top when you think about gratitude in your whole life?
I mentioned faith before. I think that one's probably the thing that's most important, and I thank my wife for putting up with me for 25 years. She's a great woman that I don't deserve, and thankful every day to have her part of my life.
I think the same. It's certainly family. I think the older I get, the more I appreciate my family when I was growing up. The sacrifices my father made for the family, and to be the mother of a teenage Duane Bombard, just God bless the woman. And now my family, it's kind of hard to articulate. I just would be a much worse version of myself if I didn't have my family, I guess is the best way to put it.
So they bring out the best in you, and they support you. That's good. So what about if you guys can share something that you're most grateful for in the other? You guys spend a lot of time together.
This is going to be Duane's favorite question. I think what I love about working with Duane is the levity that he brings to our office. He happens to be the brunt of everyone's jokes because he's the one that gives it to everyone. And he's a solid human being. He's very, very talented. And I come to work every day kind of enjoying the time that I get to spend with him. So that's the last nice thing I'll say to you.
As far as, with Dion, obviously it's like the work is the constant. I think we've certainly grown to be friends, but it's not that we spend a lot of time with each other out of work. We both have families. We both go our separate ways. The ability to do great work with somebody is certainly something I'm grateful for. But more than that, I think it's I can count, and this whenever I say this, people take it the wrong way, but I can probably count on one hand the number of people I completely trust in my life, and he's one of them. So that's one of the things that I appreciate.
Are you crying?
No, I'm not crying. No, I think both of you are fantastic too. So I just, I'm enjoying our conversation. So you're both parents. Did you teach your children gratitude, or did your parents teach gratitude to you?
I think, it's weird because I struggle with what the difference between thankfulness and gratitude is. But I think ever since my kids were young, we would say prayers at night, and it would always be, our prayers would be not about what can I get, but what can I be thankful for. My son was born with spina bifida, and that was a difficult thing, especially times where he was struggling with not being able to do that other things or things that other kids can do. And I think gratitude or thankfulness in situations like that, when you realize how fortunate you really are, even though things might not be the way you want them, there's always things to be thankful for. So we tried raising our kids with that mindset, and I think even for me, having that mindset is something that helps you out of tough times.
I certainly have taught the kids. I think maybe you teach them the mechanism when they're kids of gratitude, and who knows if they really, if they're, it's like telling, make sure you say thank you, make sure you say please. So you give them I think you kind of arm them with hopefully what will turn into genuine gratitude as they get older. I was certainly that way. I didn't, and things now, it's this complete, I continue to develop gratitude that I didn't have even with. I don't think I'm one of the people that will come on this and say that, I live my life with complete gratitude. I think I lose track of it. I think daily life kind of takes control, and I don't do it as much as I should. But with every passing day and year, I find myself more grateful for things. And I think it's because what my parents taught me, and hopefully I kind of taught my kids that, and it'll continue to develop as they get older.
Yeah, and I like to tell guests when they are like, I don't do it enough, or I should be more grateful. I think any kind of gratitude that you have in your life, even if it's something that you're not remembering, it shouldn't be something that you have to remember to do, right? We all have enough of those things. But even if it's something that's part of your life, whatever the frequency is, it's helping you and it's benefiting you, and there's true science behind the benefits. So don't worry. I would like to hear about the work that you do. I mean, you work with so many different kinds of clients, and how gratitude can inform some of the work that you do.
That's a good question. I think, Duane and I run the office in Rochester. So I think, the kind of clients that we love to have obviously are the ones that are giving us good creative challenges. But I think the ones that I probably am most grateful for are the ones that treat us like partners. I don't think in our business you ever want to be treated like a vendor, like you're a commodity. And I think the best work kind of comes out of those relationships where the clients can call you up and say, what do you think about this? This is my challenge. And we're part of it with them solving it. And obviously we can write it, we can art direct it, we can make whatever it is look beautiful. But being involved at a different level, a relationship level, I think is something that I'm probably most grateful for with our clients. And I find what is most exciting about our growth at the company is it wasn't based on the typical agency model where you respond to RFPs and you win them. Much of our growth, if not, and thinking maybe all of our growth, has been on referral or been on people that maybe we worked with at agencies that went client side and respected the abilities that we had and respected us as human beings and wanted to partner with us. So I think the way we've been able to grow over the past 5 years that we've been open, to me is a really a good testament to the kind of people that we are, the way we treat clients, the kind of human beings that we are, and the fact that people are calling us because they want to work with us. So that's something that I'm grateful for.
I mean, one of the things I love about what we do is kind of the variety. I'm just not cut out to do the same thing every day and work on the same thing. And I've tried my hand at both. So on any given day, you can work. I can be working on a beer client or something like that, which people would go, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." But I think Dion and I have kind of carved this niche where our favorite work is nonprofits, because it's just more important work. And I think when we go into it and we walk into Mary Carriola, for example, it's a client of ours, and you see the kids and their face just lights up that there's somebody new and they all run up to you to say hello. And I think that's part of the reason, kind of the gratitude is part of the reason why that is our favorite work to do. It's creatively, it's our favorite work to do because it's emotional, and it lets us do some of our what we think is our best work. But we're just grateful to be able to work on causes that we think are even are more important, and it extends to even like work we've done for the National Women's Hall of Fame. It's just important stuff, and we kind of consider ourselves lucky to be involved with it.
That's awesome. And I've been on the other side of the table from both of you, and as a client of yours, and I have loved working with you, and I judge the impact of the work that's being presented to me by my emotional response. And I think you guys have all seen that when you've presented things either for the bank or for the Right to Run, where there's we're all human, like, and so if you can connect with someone and have them respond emotionally to what you're doing, it's beautiful. And you guys do that time and time again. So I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
It's good. So can you share something with me and with the audience, a favorite memory you have of time that you've spent together? Something just really fabulous that makes you laugh or cry or
we've had
something you'll
plenty
never
of ones
forget.
that we would laugh about. I don't know if there's anything I could share on air.
One of the ones that strikes me is we had to go completely 180 degrees from the nonprofit clients that we love so much. We had a casino, and we spent 3 days at a casino shooting fairly sizable, extensive TV commercials, a series of them. If you know Dion Pender, you know casinos and bars and that kind of thing are not really. I feel really comfortable there.
Yeah.
Dion, not so much. So it was just, the work was fun. The end product was great. We were working with really talented people. We were up in Niagara Falls for 3 days at a casino, and it just kind of seeing Dion out of his element, I found pretty entertaining. So,
I think for me, we were working with a really great photographer in Rochester, John Myers, and John approached us and said that he wanted to do some work that really told a visual story, work that he could use in his portfolio. So Duane had the idea of doing some work for Middle Ages Brewing Company because they have really, really great names for some of their beers. And so what we wanted to do was bring some of these names to life. So one of the shoots that we were doing was for Impaled Ale. And we had, and considering it's Middle Ages, we had a theme that all of this stuff tied back to the Middle Ages. So there's one scene that I remember where we were in, I don't know, was it Shortsville or something?
Palatka Creek.
Yeah, and it was in this creek, and Duane had waders on that were like up to here, and he's holding an Excalibur sword that has a taxidermied, I don't know if that's the way you say it, but a fish on the end of it. And I think it was one of the first projects that we kind of completed when we started the Martin Group. And it was just a fun day. It was a fun day to get out of the office. It was some of the work that I was most proud of. It actually won National Addy Awards. And it was just it was a good thing to partner with him on. I am not versed in alcohol type clients, but I am versed in creative execution of things. So it was a nice thing to partner with Duane on and to get a fun project on and to shoot some really incredible things with John and have a good product at the end of it.
Awesome. And so it won a national award, you said?
Yeah, the National Addy Award.
Super. So you both work in Victor, and you live in the Rochester area. Are you both from there? Did you grow up there?
I did not. I grew up outside of Buffalo area and spent 20 years of my career actually in Buffalo. Was recruited to come work at Rochester, and really, really love it here. Love the community. It's a visually beautiful place to live and be, and we really like it.
Okay. So, how about for you? I know we've talked about New Hampshire, but
New Hampshire was not. I spent some time in New Hampshire after college. I tell people I grew up at the North Pole. It's actually what it's like. I grew up in a town called Messina, and it's at the very, very top of the state. Essentially go to Syracuse and then go north for 3 hours from there, and it's 6 miles from the Canadian border. Really great place to grow up in hindsight. In the middle of nowhere, but really great, solid people. Not a lot of industry, so a lot of people have to, you kind of have to leave to maybe make a living afterwards. But it's just a completely different environment than from down around here.
Okay. And are there things that you're really grateful for about where you live now and the community that you live in?
My wife and I were having the conversation as we were driving someplace just a week ago about how we have now lived in Canandaigua longer than we lived anywhere. So I really consider, Canandaigua is as home. And it's just, I think it's just the kind of people that I was fortunate enough to meet. I met a lot of, that who are like my best friends in the world through my son's baseball, and they were the coaches and the other parents. And to this day, our kids are long done playing baseball, but to this day, they're like the solid group of people that we hang out with. And I think that's what's great about the town I grew up and the town I live in now. It's just small town America. So
that's awesome. So is there something that if you think back to your life, there's something that you're grateful for now that at the time you were not grateful for?
I think for me, when I was growing up, I didn't come from a wealthy family. There was times that we didn't have a lot. And I think if you ask my mom, I think that's one of her greatest regrets, that she couldn't give us more. But I tell her all the time that I'm so thankful and grateful that we didn't. Because when I drive into my driveway every day and I pull into my house, which is a beautiful home, it makes me really grateful because I didn't have that growing up. When I get into my car and start it and I know it's going to start, not leave me stranded on the road, there's a certain beauty in those simple little things that most people would take for granted. But when you grow up not having a lot, you definitely, at least for me, grow up being really extremely thankful on how blessed we really are. I know a pastor once told me that most people in this world want to live on top of the mountains, live on the mountaintops, ride the high of a mountaintop. But the pastor said, what grows on the mountaintop? And there's not a lot that grows up there. And if you really want to look where things grow, it's in the valley. And sometimes during those really tough periods in life is where you can learn the most about yourself. And you can kind of come out of it stronger and more positive. So I'm thankful now that we grew up with very little means, because now, what I do have, it's more rich.
Beautiful.
I think it's interesting. Maybe it's one of the things that kind of the reasons why we get along so well, because we both grew up in similar circumstances. Both of our fathers are named Duane, as a matter of fact, as am I. But I certainly don't want to give the impression that we didn't have shoes and we walked uphill in the snow everywhere. But it was, the kind of I am absolutely grateful for it now. That and the other thing I think that in hindsight now that I look back on, is the fact that I didn't start my career doing what I do now, and I had to work my way into it. I had a completely different career before that I was absolutely awful at, that I didn't enjoy. I was one of those Sunday night people about, oh my gosh, I got to go to work tomorrow. So it has really gotten to a point where I think the two things they're very much related. The fact that that now when I look at it, I enjoy things more now because I did have to work to get them. And I think it's kind of positioned me now, and hopefully I've kind of instilled this in my kids. If you want something bad enough, you can go and get it. I wanted to work in advertising, and there was nobody in the world that would hire me. I interviewed the first time I had an interview with even relating to the industry. The guy said, Duane, I can't just hire you because you want to do it. There's a lot of people that want to do this. And so I think it just, those circumstances just kind of taught me that, okay, you got to go out and get it. And so that's been pretty valuable during my life. So
that's awesome. I think, willingness is important, but yeah, you need to have the skill. But what were you doing before?
I was the world's worst technical writer. A technical writer is the one that writes computer manuals that says, now type in at C:. It was the beginning of, when there were computer manuals, personal computers were just coming out. And I was so awful at it. And I just dreaded. I didn't like it. I don't really
There's no heart in computer manuals.
Well, and I don't really like technology all that much. So it was just the worst fit. And it was, it was one of those things that I knew I needed to get out of it, and I knew what I wanted to do. It was a combination of just. I said I'm going to start doing. I started writing for a newspaper part-time because I figured that's a different kind of writing, and there was some luck involved as well. But I finally kind of broke into the marketing thing and went from there.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
So I'm curious with just with your childhood, if you were winning art contests and writing contests, and if you were creating in the same ways as you were growing as children.
It's weird because before I got into advertising, the only thing that I really knew that I liked to do was to draw. And I wasn't the best artist. I did win art competitions, and I was probably one of the better ones in my class as far as art. But I had no idea that you could make a living doing that. So when I was in high school, I went to a BOCES program for graphic design, and it seemed like it was something that I was good at. So for me, it was a natural choice to go into that, and I can't imagine honestly doing anything else. I like the idea of teaching, but I like the idea of teaching graphic design or advertising. But if I didn't have this as a career, I couldn't pick of anything else that I'd rather do.
Well, I can't picture you doing anything else, so it's good. You should stick with it.
Yeah, I like it.
How about for you? Were you writing?
I did. I've never really written for pleasure. It's just not something I enjoy. Somebody said this, I don't know who. I enjoy having written, not writing, once it's done. But I did, I think I won some stuff in high school, whatever. I went to a guidance counselor like you do when you're a junior or senior in high school. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a writer. And he said, well, you can't make a living being a writer. You got to be an engineer. And I'm like, I was, 16, 17. I'm like, okay. And that led me to this technical writing, which is kind of a combination of the two. I was like Dion. It was completely, I didn't know you could make a living I figured you either had to be Stephen King or you couldn't make a living as a writer. Did not know advertising existed even. So I'm pretty fortunate that, I ended up kind of where I am.
It's good, and it's gotta feel great to do things that you love. Mm-hmm. And that's so healthy. So can you explain what the Martin Group is and does for folks that may not know the Martin Group or may not know what an advertising agency does?
Sure. A little bit about the Martin Group. We have 3 offices, one office in Buffalo, one in Victor, Rochester area, and we've opened one up in Albany as well. We are a full-service advertising agency, and when I say full service, what is meant by that is most clients, any need that they have, whether it's creative services or placing media or social media, building websites, whatever it happens to be, we can handle it within our organization.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So before we close, anything else that you want to add? Any burning gratitude thoughts or tips you want to share with the audience?
The only thing that kind of comes to mind for me is we mentioned earlier growing up with nothing, or I shouldn't say nothing, growing up with little. Duane mentioned that you have to go out and you have to work really, really hard to kind of accomplish what you need to accomplish. I think for me, at an early age, I actually worked on a farm. I think I started working there when I was 13, 14 years old. So when you see the hard work, I don't think there's anyone that works harder than farmers. I remember at an early age saying, this is not what I want to do for a living. It's just so hard. So, the gratefulness to have the job that I have, to work with the people that I work with, the team that we have in the Victor office is really, really incredible. I think everyone in our office genuinely cares about each other, and we've got each other's back. I think for me, that is something that, if you want to talk about gratefulness, we spend most of our time and days with the people that we work with. So to work with such a great team, it's an honor, and it's something that I'm thankful for.
Beautiful. Anything you want to add? Or
yeah, real quick. Through you and through kind of my association with Seneca Falls, I had the pleasure to meet Ed Chase, who's been on this before. Ed, and I was thinking this as I was driving here, Ed quite literally had people trying to kill him as he flew over Germany, so that things like Pittsburgh wouldn't happen, and so you could vote. So go vote. If you don't want to vote, if you don't normally vote for, because Ed said you can vote. So.
And Ed's a 94-year-old World War to veteran, so definitely vote. So that does bring us to the end of our time together. And especially now that we're in November, it seems like this is the season for gratitude. So take a moment to reflect and think about things that you're grateful for, and take the time to tell somebody, because we don't always take the chance to tell people that we love and care about, that we're grateful for the things that they do to help us. So until next time, share your gratitude and have a great day.